Well, my first real solo sailing experience was the scariest. The girls at the coffee shop yesterday, they asked me, was there any time that you thought you were going to die? And I said, yeah, there was a couple. And then I corrected myself. I said, yeah, actually it was a whole day and that night. A friend of mine, he implanted this idea in my brain that living on a boat was so cheap and so good. And I'd never lived on a boat, I never sailed ever. I couldn't let it go. I had to get a boat. No matter what, I had to do anything to get a boat, and I did it. I had flown down and looked at the boat for a few hours before I, decided to buy it. I didn't get to have a real good look, but when I finally arrived and moved on board, I noticed that there was a shitload of shit that needed to be done, So I spent a couple of months, at least, 2.5 months just fixing stuff. Yeah, before I left, everyone was sort of saying, you can't just go out and sail, you can't just go out and especially sail the Bass Strait, but a friend of mine, basically my brains trust, he said, you'll manage, it's fine, you'll figure it out. I met people and they would be like, you're doing what? And you've never sailed? They were really, really concerned. My first solo sailing experience, it was about 36 hours of sailing with nothing in sight but wind and rain. This is my first big voyage out into the big blue, and I've come across a gale. It's blowing a gale here. I can't believe it. The best part is arriving to a new port and coming out of a rough sea and meeting a glassy, protected anchorage. That's just the best feeling in the world. Like a lot of people sort of said, they had their doubts. They say, do you know how far it is? Do you know how dangerous those waters are? I realised that the journey was a bit of a mammoth trip around the Bass Strait, especially. So I was looking for a crew member. There was initial doubts and stuff, and Tino not knowing how to sail, but I had faith. The plan was for him to help me sail the boat back from Apollo Bay, south of Melbourne, all the way back to Byron Bay, which is, I think it's about 1,000 nautical miles. That first time, heading out into the 25 knot winds, yeah, it was pretty scary. Thrown straight into the deep end, compounded by the fact that Tino got sick about an hour in.
Did you know anything about sailing? Because Tino was a bit passo, were you up on deck just shitting yourself going, how the fuck does this thing work, or?
More or less.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, I didn't know a whole lot, and then he just sort of showed me the basics, what ropes do what I had to do, and then he just sort of went to sleep and left me to it. After 36 hours at sea, rough, windy, wet, vomiting, and this place was like a mill pond and the sun was shining.
I remember going to sleep just after we left Iluka, and then Tino woke me up for my watch, and I sort of said, oh, are we in Ballina yet? And he's like, we're past Ballina. And then I went up on deck and I could see the lights of Lennox and sort of make out the headland, and then, see the lighthouse of Byron like flashing off in the distance.
It's an epic cape, on the nautical scene you see capes and they have lighthouses, and that is like this beacon of hope. And seeing the Cape Byron lighthouse in the morning just before we got in off the Ballina coast, it's just so exciting, because it's been 4 months since I left the place, and I never thought sort of I'd see it again at some points, and it's just a massive journey that didn't seem to end until that point.
I don't think I really took my eyes off it. I just sort of was looking at it the whole time, watching it get closer and closer as the sun was coming up. Yeah, to round the Cape and to see home for the first time in a month was pretty good.
My dad was up on the top shooting some long range video shots, and
I don't think he's ever been more proud of us, really, to be honest. I guess it's kind of a big deal when your kids go away. Neither of them who've really sailed before, and they buy a boat and sail a quarter of the way around Australia to come home.
That wasn't really the end of it for me, because basically Marley jumped off and went back to his life on the mainland, and I kept going north. I've since arrived on the Gold Coast in Australia, and I plan to go further north. Every dollar you save, you don't have to make the $3 you need to make to get that dollar in the first place, because you need to pay tax, and you need to support the expensive lifestyle, which is living on shore.